What if I told you that some of your favorite songs from the 1970s weren't original at all? Many artists reworked older songs. Some transformed them completely, while others stayed true to the original but reached new audiences. From Santana to Janis Joplin, there are many well-known songs that are actually covers of previous songs. Black Magic Woman, Satana. For example, before Satana made Black Magic Woman one of the most recognized guitar-driven songs of the 70s, Fleetwood Mac recorded it first in 1968. Written by Peter Green, the song had a bluesy sound with a haunting feel. It performed well in the UK, but it didn't become a massive hit. In 1970, Carlos Santana reworked the track, adding his signature Latin rock style with congas, timbales, and extended instrumental sections. His version, released on the Abraxas album, turned the song into a global sensation. Satana's guitar work made it stand out, and many listeners had no idea it wasn't his original song. Decades later, it remains one of his most celebrated tracks. While Fleetwood Mac's version was bluesy and raw, Santana's turned it into a hypnotic and unforgettable classic. Satana took a blues song and turned it into a Latin rock masterpiece. But the next artist on our list gave her final recording on an emotional depth that no one saw coming. Me and Bobby McGee, Janis Joplin.
For me and my Bobby McGee.
Chris Christopherson wrote Me and Bobby McGee, and Roger Miller first recorded in 1969. It had a country folk sound, telling the story of a free-spirited love that fades away. Janis Joplin recorded her version in 1970, just days before she passed away. When it was released posthumously in 1971, it became her first and only #1 hit. Her powerful, raspy voice gave the song a completely new level of emotion. Unlike the original, which felt like a reflective folk tune, Joplin's version was raw, soulful, and deeply personal. Her performance turned the song into one of the most unforgettable folk rock anthems of all time. Fun fact, did you know Chris Christopherson had no idea Janis had even recorded Me and Bobby McGee until after her passing? He first heard it at a studio playback session, and it left him in tears. It remains a classic, forever linked to Joplin's legacy. Janis Joplin turned Me and Bobby McGee into a timeless anthem, but one song on our list was covered so well that even its original writer admitted the cover was better. Stay tuned till the end to learn about this one. Without You, Harry Nilsson.
Without her, doo-doo-doo.
In 1970, the British rock band Badfinger recorded Without You for their album No Dice, written by Pete Ham and Tom Evans. The song was a mix of two different compositions. It had deep lyrics, but the original recording didn't get much attention. A year later, Harry Nilsson heard it and decided to record his own version. He slowed it down, added orchestral arrangements, and turned it into a heartbreaking ballad. His emotional delivery made it one of the most powerful love songs of all time. Released in 1971, Nilsson's version topped the Billboard Hot 100 and won a Grammy for Best Male Pop Vocal Performance. It became a timeless classic, with later covers by Mariah Carey and Air Supply. But Nilsson's remains the most iconic. Harry Nilsson's ballad was emotional and intense. However, the next track went through multiple hands before a raspy-voiced rocker made it a worldwide hit. The first cut is the deepest, Rod Stewart. Many associate the first cut as the deepest with Rod Stewart, but it was first recorded by P.P. Arnold in 1967. The song was written by Cat Stevens, who later recorded his version, but it was Arnold's soul-styled take that brought it initial success. In 1977, Stewart gave the song a rock twist, adding gritty guitar work and his signature raspy vocals. His version appeared on his album A Night in the Town, and it became a huge hit worldwide. Unlike the earlier versions, Stewart's had a rougher, emotional edge, making it a rock anthem. His delivery captured the pain of heartbreak, and his version became the most well-known. The song remains a favorite, proving how each artist brings something unique to a great song. Blinded by the Light, Manfred Mann's Earth Band. In 1973, Bruce Springsteen wrote and recorded Blinded by the Light for his debut album, Greetings from Asbury Park, N.J. His version had a folk rock feel, with poetic lyrics and a free-flowing melody. However, it didn't gain much attention at the time. 3 years later, Manfred Mann's Earth Band reimagined the song. They transformed it into a progressive rock anthem, adding synthesizers, guitar solos, and a soaring vocal performance. Their version had a polished, radio-friendly sound that clicked with audiences. Released in 1976, their version became a #1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100, making it far more successful than Springsteen's original. The cover's misheard lyrics, especially "Revved Up Like a Deuce," became a topic for debate, adding to its legend. Up next, we have a song cover written by Bob Marley that didn't just climb the charts, it changed the way people heard an entire genre. I Shot the Sheriff, Eric Clapton.
I shot the sheriff.
Bob Marley and the Wailers originally recorded I Shot the Sheriff in 1973 for their album Burnin'. The song was deeply rooted in reggae rhythms and political themes, reflecting struggles against oppression. In 1974, Eric Clapton heard the track and gave it a blues rock spin. His version kept the reggae beat, but added electric guitar riffs and a smoother production style. This made the song more accessible to mainstream audiences unfamiliar with reggae. Clapton's version became a massive hit, reaching #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Even Bob Marley acknowledged that the cover helped introduce reggae to a global audience. Here's a fun fact for you. Marley didn't want to reveal the real meaning behind I Shot the Sheriff. However, in an interview years later, his partner, Rita Marley, said it was actually about Marley opposing birth control methods prescribed by doctors. While Marley's original remains powerful, Clapton's version played a crucial role in bringing reggae into the rock world. Bob Dylan created a masterpiece, but one artist reimagined it with a bluesy, soulful twist. Can you guess which song got this transformation? Knockin' on Heaven's Door, Eric Clapton.
Knocking on heaven's door.
In 1973, Bob Dylan wrote and recorded Knockin' on Heaven's Door for the film Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. The song had a mournful, stripped-down folk sound, perfectly fitting the movie's dramatic atmosphere. In 1975, Eric Clapton took the song and gave it a bluesy reggae twist. His version had a laid-back groove, smooth guitar licks, and a Caribbean influence. The transformation made it stand out, giving it a fresh identity in rock music. Clapton's rendition was a commercial success, making the song popular again with a broader audience. Many artists have covered the song, but Clapton's version remains one of the most recognized. Despite the changes, it still carries the melancholic weight of Dylan's original, making it a timeless classic. Now, this piece of art was also something sung by David, which cannot be ignored. But all that time a singer, Lulu somehow owned it by covering it. The Man Who Sold the World, Lulu.
The man who sold the world.
David Bowie recorded The Man Who Sold the World in 1970, giving it a dark, psychedelic sound. It was the title track of his third album, but it wasn't a hit at the time. In 1974, Lulu released her version, produced by David Bowie himself. He encouraged her to take a glam rock approach, making it more polished and radio-friendly. Lulu's vocals added a haunting theatrical quality, making it stand out. Though Lulu's version was well received, the song gained even greater recognition in 1993 when Nirvana performed it on their MTV Unplugged session. Their grunge-infused take introduced a new generation to Bowie's songs. Today, it remains one of the most covered Bowie tracks, with Lulu's version being an important stepping stone in its history. The next cover took a completely different path, turning a soulful ballad into a mesmerizing new wave classic. It turned a gospel-influenced track into an indie rock staple. Take Me to the River, Talking Heads. Al Green originally recorded Take Me to the River in 1974, blending soul, gospel, and blues into a deeply emotional track. His version carried a smooth spiritual feel, telling a story of love and redemption. In 1978, Talking Heads transformed it into a new wave classic. Their version had a groovy bass line, sharp guitar licks, and David Byrne's quirky, detached vocals. It replaced the original's soulful warmth with a hypnotic, edgy atmosphere. The cover became a major hit, introducing the song to a younger rock audience. Many listeners didn't realize it was a cover, as Talking Heads gave it a completely new identity. Today, both versions stand strong, representing two entirely different musical worlds that somehow connected through the same song. How do you take a soul classic and make it sound completely new? Talking Heads pulled it off. You Really Got Me, Van Halen. The Kinks first recorded You Really Got Me in 1964, and it became one of the most influential rock songs of all time. The song's powerful guitar riff and raw energy laid the foundation for hard rock and punk. In 1978, Van Halen took it to the next level. Their version featured Eddie Van Halen's blazing guitar solo, heavier distortion, and David Lee Roth's wild vocals. The band's explosive performance made many fans think it was an original song. Van Halen's cover became a breakout hit, launching them into stardom. Even Ray Davies of the Kinks later admitted that Van Halen's version was incredibly impressive. The Kinks guitarist, Dave Davies, wasn't a fan of Van Halen's cover. He said their version ruined the original rawness, but he admitted Eddie Van Halen's solo was legendary. While the original was legendary, Van Halen's cover turned it into a full-on rock anthem, still played loudly to this day. Van Halen's explosive cover made You Really Got Me a rock favorite. But the final song on our list was reimagined so perfectly that even its creator changed the way he performed it. Don't miss it. Hound Dog, Elvis Presley.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog.
Big Mama Thornton was the first to record Hound Dog in 1952, written by Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller. Her version was a gritty blues song filled with raw emotion. The lyrics called out a useless man, not an actual dog. It became a hit on the R&B charts, showcasing her powerful voice and commanding delivery. In 1956, Elvis Presley recorded his version, but with new lyrics and a faster tempo. His energetic performance on The Ed Sullivan Show made it a rock and roll sensation. Elvis's version sold over 10 million copies, making it one of the best-selling singles of all time. While many only associate the song with Elvis, Big Mama Thornton's original laid the foundation. Without her old blues version, one of rock's biggest hits might never have existed. Let's move towards the next one. Georgia on My Mind, Ray Charles. Hoagy Carmichael wrote and recorded Georgia on My Mind in 1930. It was a jazzy ballad featuring a soft melody and nostalgic lyrics. Though a beautiful song, it didn't become a major hit at the time. In 1960, Ray Charles transformed it into a soulful masterpiece. His rich vocals and gospel influences gave the song an emotional depth that touched millions. It became one of his signature songs and won a Grammy for Best Male Vocal Performance. His version became so iconic that in 1979, the state of Georgia adopted it as its official state song. Decades later, Ray Charles' version remains one of the most moving performances in music history, proving that a great song can be reborn in the right hands. The next song became one of punk rock's most rebellious anthems. I Fought the Law, The Clash. In 1960, the Crickets recorded I Fought the Law, written by Sonny Curtis after Buddy Holly's death. The song had a laid-back rock and roll feel, telling the story of a man who turned to crime but ultimately lost to the law. It gained more attention in 1966 when the Bobby Fuller Four released their version. Their upbeat arrangement and Fuller's smooth vocals turned it into a garage rock classic. Then came The Clash in 1979. Their fierce punk rendition added a sense of rebellion and frustration, turning it into an anthem against authority. With raw guitars and Joe Strummer's aggressive vocals, their version became the most famous of all. Even today, The Clash's version is the one most people recognize, proving that sometimes a cover can define a song's legacy. If you're an electronic lover, then it's time for something that was completely transformed with an electronic twist that made one of the most iconic synth-pop songs ever. Tainted Love, Soft Cell. Gloria Jones recorded the original Tainted Love in 1965. Written by Ed Cobb, the song was a high-energy soul track. Despite Gloria's powerful vocals, it didn't gain much attention upon release. However, it became a cult hit in the UK's northern soul scene in the 1970s. In 1981, Soft Cell completely transformed the song. Their version slowed it down, stripped it back, and added electronic beats. Mark Allman's original delivery gave it a haunting, melancholic tone, making it feel like a song of heartbreak and obsession. Their version became a massive global hit, topping the UK charts and reaching number 8 on the US Billboard Hot 100. Today, it's remembered as one of the greatest covers ever, proving that a song can take on a whole new life in the right hands. An entirely new level of raw, emotional power, Janis Joplin's raspy voice gave Piece of My Heart a new soul. Piece of My Heart, Janis Joplin with Big Brother and the Holding Company. In 1967, Irma Franklin, sister of Aretha Franklin, recorded Piece of My Heart as a soulful R&B track. Her version carried smooth, heartfelt vocals filled with genuine emotion, but it didn't become a massive hit at the time. Just a year later, Janis Joplin, with Big Brother and the Holding Company, completely transformed the song. Her raw, unfiltered delivery, combined with the band's heavier guitar riffs, turned it into a psychedelic blues rock anthem. Joplin's raspy, emotional voice made it feel gritty and desperate, capturing a different kind of pain. Released on the album Cheap Thrills, the song became a defining moment in rock history. Janis's version remains the most famous today, proving that a song can reach new heights when performed with the right intensity and passion. Another song is a global phenomenon after being recorded in just one take. Twist and Shout, The Beatles.
Twist and shout.
The original Twist and Shout was recorded by The Top Notes in 1961. Produced by Phil Spector, their version was a polished R&B track, but it failed to make an impact. In 1962, the Isley Brothers re-recorded it, adding more energy and vocal power. Their version gained significant attention, making it a well-known party song. Then came the Beatles in 1963. Their version was raw, explosive, and full of life. John Lennon, despite having a sore throat, screamed through the lyrics, giving the song its legendary status. Recorded in one take during the Please Please Me album session, it became one of the band's most famous performances. Today, when people think of Twist and Shout, it's the Beatles' electrifying version that stands above the rest. The Wait Is Over, the last track on our list, was so revolutionary that its original writer completely changed the way he performed it. All Along the Watchtower, Jimi Hendrix.
All the women came and went.
Bob Dylan originally recorded All Along the Watchtower in 1967 for his album John Wesley Harding. His version was minimalistic and acoustic, focusing on the song's mysterious and poetic lyrics. While it carried a haunting quality, it was understated compared to what was coming next. Jimi Hendrix heard the song and reimagined it. He added blazing electric guitar solos, a sense of urgency, and a darker, more intense atmosphere. His 1970 version, recorded with the Jimi Hendrix Experience, turned it into a rock masterpiece. The song became one of Hendrix's most celebrated tracks, often mistaken as an original. Even Bob Dylan himself preferred Hendrix's version. After hearing it, he began performing the song in a style closer to Hendrix's arrangement in his live concerts. And a fun fact for you, Jimi Hendrix spent weeks perfecting All Along the Watchtower in the studio. He was such a perfectionist that he made his bassist, Noel Redding, leave the session because he wasn't happy with how he was playing. Today, it remains one of the most powerful cover songs ever recorded. Some of these songs became so big that most people never knew they were covers. It proves how great music can take on a whole new life when reimagined by different artists. Some covers stay true to the original, while others create something completely new. Which song on this list surprised you the most? Do you know another 1970s cover that should have been included? Let us know in the comments.